Hey, Goodbox here. So, they did a little blog on abilities, and while we had this leaked, I think I put out the video on the 15th, so a few weeks ago, they're giving their thought process on why things change with them. I'm going to give my thoughts on the abilities. I wrote like a page plus of notes here, X factors, a lot of things they're going at, some critiques I have, my biggest problem with what they have, and a lot of other things, suggestions. If you're going to cause issues, you got to offer solutions, right? Although, to be fair, it's our job to point out issues and their job as developers to solve those issues, as that's what the money's for. But I'll help them out a little bit. So it's kind of interesting to see they talk about the Superstar X Factor abilities built to reflect authentic skills and characteristics those athletes display in the real life NFL. Now, it's been laughed at a million times. I'm going to laugh at it one more time. You expect me to take the high road, but I always go low. LOL. Ha 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 ha. Right? Authentic skills and characteristics these athletes display in the real NFL. I'm not even going to get into justifying that and whatnot, but I guess it's a good goal to go after for them. I'll just go. My first problem, I think, is they put out the superstar card art and whatever, make them into superheroes, authentic, whatever. Like, I feel like X Factors themselves, superstar X Factors, continuing to grow and evolve. My problem is that, like, I don't feel that they are good for the game, right? X Factors themselves, and they've made them easier to achieve this year and easier to, like, kind of get into the zone. It just feels like they're bad to scheme around, right? Whereas abilities, what you could say, hey, these guys actually have them, those things are easier to build around, get your scheme ready and going for them. Whereas X Factors just kind of come out and then they kind of like, they're more like win more factors, right? I'm winning a little bit. I've completed against this guy a few times. Now guess what? I'm going to chuck in double coverage and really just win more a little bit. So I don't feel like X Factors. I think those are my biggest problems with abilities and superstardom is the fact that they don't offer a depth of strategy. They just kind of, they do make their players feel like superstars, but that's what the abilities already do. So I don't feel like X Factors, because they're not consistent, because they're not, I would guess well balanced, they just don't feel good for the game, right? And it's cool, like, in certain games, building up to your ultimate combo, and fighting games, getting your combo out, but that's like more of like a skill mechanic. You gotta work for it, and like, I don't know, I don't love the way X Factors are in the game, and that's kind of my main issue with that. Is that kind of like building around it and scheming around it. It's not consistent enough, so there's not enough strategy there with X Factors for me to actually love them. But let's go through it. They added some things. It's inevitable that we want to add new features from Madden NFL 21, which is good. I love that they keep innovating. The thing about innovation is you're not always going to be right. But as long as you're trying it, the game will get better and the things will get better over time. So while if they try things and they're bad, they've done this in the past. They did with like the pass lead thing or the precision passing. They got rid of the next year. They didn't. I mean, they didn't need to get rid of it, but they did because they saw it was like a bad, effort, I guess, and they caused a couple bugs like the Hail Mary glitch, but that was patched. So like, I don't mind it. Right? Change it up, because a lot of the biggest I guess criticism is Madden is that the same game year over year. You guys seen those Spider-Man memes where they're all pointing at each other, and we've talked about that in the past and how much the game actually changes year over year. Let's actually scroll this down a little bit so I can kind of be where I am on the screen. So, like, basically, there's got a lot of intro and thoughts about what's going on for their additions. The pass rush. Yeah. So, the pass rush, right? It's weird because the pass rush, like, they focus so much on the user pass rush and, like, kind of like doing it yourself and players getting in the zone or whatnot. And I'll get more a little bit into later, like, what they could have done instead of, working on D-line mechanics, maybe some other things just off the top of my head that I was trying to figure out. So pass rush, basically, they added some new things where the Aaron Donald blitz, which we've talked about. Effective D-line captains aren't just examinable fouls, they are motivators. When they enter the zone, all opposing blockers have their resistance bars wiped out. You know how else to wipe out opposing blockers' resistance bars? You just switch your players on the D-line, right? You switch them positions. So, cool, I guess, but whatever. Blocking resistance bar, like, so this is all like their entire focus on this, not entire, but a large focus of their new addition this year is user D-line pass rush mechanics, because when you're letting the CPU do it, you're not going to be getting these abilities that allow you to basically, you know, the El Toro ability. If you're not user rushing, that doesn't matter. You're going to still want edge threat elite, pass rush elite, those things, let the CPU do it while you user in the midfield. And I've heard a lot of people talk about users and how bad they are from the beta. For those that weren't, and I said this in my updated beta feedback, for those that weren't able to get onto the hacked on beta again, users did improve from the original beta to the new beta. And at 89 speed, Patrick Queen played much better than other linebackers in the original beta, so I wouldn't worry about it. Lurker's back. We saw it on Levante David. Users, I'm not as concerned. They are definitely nerfed from 20, but not nearly as bad as we experienced in the original beta, for those that didn't play on the updated one. So, yeah, it's a lot like user D-line. They add a lot of features there, and it's kind of disappointing, right? Like, what could they have done instead? I think, okay, besides for that, like, before I go to what they could have done, I think my biggest issue is, like, there was, like, if you had El Toro, defenders with this ability receive dominant bull rush wins when their pass rush points are full. Like, you were literally able to instant use this, like, on the A gap there with Donald or whoever's in the A gap. I think there's another player. Was it Chris Jones that may have had it too? It's another D-line ability guy, Calais Campbell. You basically were able to get through and insta-sack the quarterback with this ability, and that's bad. That's bad to stop him like that. Even though it's superstar, they're still going through NFL players like that, and I don't know. I didn't love it, but otherwise, yeah, it sucks. They were kind of OP in the beta, but like a lot of this stuff, you're not going to end up using. So I do want to talk about fatigue before I go on to, you know, maybe some other things they could have done. So they talk about adding fatigue and adding this into, you know, let's just read through it first, and I'll get my thoughts on it. This is an area we are continually looking at to improve upon, and one way we're doing that is by introducing a few abilities that take advantage of existing stamina and fatigue systems. In Madden NFL 21, you'll see abilities that can help you regen stamina during a play, like the new Energize ability. This ability allows you to replenish all your stamina. On the other side of the coin, you will see some defense abilities that punish their target's fatigue level, such as the new Bench Press ability. This causes successful man press attempts to tire out the receiver, reducing their performance and bringing them closer to being temporarily benched. So, like, here's the thing about fatigue, and we see this in a lot of games, like, you know, MMO, WoW have, like, cooldown times for their abilities and whatnot. Fatigue in Madden, it's like, what's the fun, right? I've seen my JJ Watt. Like, these are, like, literally the best athletes in the world. I've seen JJ Watt pick up a fumble, and I'm like, oh, I'm going 6. And then after, like, 60, 70 yards or whatever, and going in the end zone, he literally goes down to 2 miles per hour, starts doing that shit walk. Like, it's like he's going to the bathroom. He's going like this down the field. Like he's got to take a dump and he's holding it in or something. So, like, it's like, and he just gets caught instantly by whatever running back or mobile quarterback they had, and, like, you tackle on the 5-yard, 10-yard line, you're like, wait a second. J.J. Watt would not switch to that kind of speed at 60 yards, right? And it's so, their fatigue system, I think it could use a lot of tuning, right? I don't think it's, like, the worst thing in the world, but where's the fun in that, right? Like, isn't this about being fun, this game? And I get it as a balancing mechanism. It's fine to use this as a way of, like, balancing out receivers and stuff and add to it. But, like, you got to describe more of what fatigue does. You got to tell us what they are. Why are you know, superstar athletes, and you can fight me on this. I think NFL players are the best athletes in the world. You could argue basketball players are there too, and I'd be with you. They're both amazing athletes there. You know, soccer's got their, you know, track and star. Okay, whatever. But they would not fatigue after running for 60 yards, even after, you know, playing a few snaps on the field. J.J. Watt, you see that motherfucker train? Are you kidding me? You're saying he'd go down to 2 miles per hour? No, stop it. So the fatigue system, not fun right now and broken in points. And they're adding and going more into it. So they really do hopefully look at that in the future, along with some other things that we've talked about. So they talk about new X factors, and like I said, I did a video on that. I'll link it in the description on their new abilities and stuff, so I'm not going to talk about that here again. You can just watch that. But I do want to talk about some of the rebalances. Anyone who follows these gridiron notes knows the balance is very important to us. Omega low. Dude, you're the worst ever at any video game I've played on balance. Are you kidding me? This shit is balanced like a drunken fox at night at a sobriety checkpoint. That's not good. That's not a good that wasn't good. That was not a good choice of words. This shit is like me on a balance beam, right? I'm off and on the ground in 3 seconds tops. It's horrible. Add superstar ability balance is a key factor of ongoing effort to achieve balance. The thing is, like, at least they say it, right? The first sentence is straight up marketing speak and a fucking lie. You know, if balance would have been important to you, you would have fixed the fucking run game last year after watching it dominate all 4 majors. After watching the first one, you would have done some shit to it. This is flat out fucking lies. All right, but they have an ongoing effort to achieve balance. Now that, like, the first lie leads me to believe this is also a lie, unless they really show it this year with patches and updates to their fucking game. But all we'll see is what their actions are, not their words. Below, you'll find some details around key areas and abilities that are reworked and rebalanced, along with some rationale behind the decision we made. We'll continue to monitor the balance of all various superstar abilities and make any adjustments we need in title updates. Route running. We had a large variety of route specialist abilities, and I've talked about this. Basically, I'll just read through it. Your route running and catching on a designed route. On paper, this seemed fine, but in the wild, it resulted in some couple big issues. The first issue is that bonuses were granted based off your assigned route at the time of the snap. This led to intrepid users hot running a receiver to the specialized route, then taking control of the wide receiver and running whatever route they felt like, which still being granted their bonuses. The other issue with these abilities was that they were difficult to use. To get the benefits, you needed a specialized route as a hot route, or you had to comb through your playbook looking for specific plays that utilize the specific wide receiver on that specific specialized route. Now, there were 2 ways to change this, right? You know, update your playbooks to allow different routes and more route combinations rather than the same playbooks we've had for 10 years. And they are updating a little bit. They're doing a decent job, if not at a snail's pace. Ultimately, these 2 issues made the abilities cumbersome and easily exploitable. Or the other thing they could have done is what they did. We're seeking to change these abilities by granting their bonuses based off where the pass is being caught on the field rather than the route you are running. This field is split up into a few zones based on the distance, line of scrimmage, and a catch you required to zone. You will require to reap the benefits of the ability. So, like, it's not a bad change, right? Going short out elite versus, like, specific routes. We'll adapt. It's basically a side grade, and it is what it is. I think it makes your offense a little less consistent, a little less routes, because you used to be able to change around your guy to go to specific, but you can still do that, right? I don't think the strategy really changes or gets modified much, but basically the defense now can key on a play in a certain specific part of the field, right? Like if I see a Tyreek Hill, I expect him to go on drags and just wait for him to get to the outside third of the field. Short out elite isn't. I don't think short out elite is that important because drags usually open anyways. Short out elite isn't as powerful as like the deep out elite, or he's got mid and deep out elite for Julio Jones. Like if the swerve, if they can make that work in 21 again, this could be a major issue. But yeah, mid out and deep out. The thing is, mid out 10 to 20 yards. That might not be very good because a lot of the mid routes I run are over 20 yards from the line of scrimmage, right? Well, actually no. I think mid will be fine. 10 to 20. A lot of my routes do end up around 15 to 17 yards. So I think mid out's good. Deep out's nice too for like deeper, corners, as those have always been very important corner routes. So the out elites are really nice. And then like for post patterns, you'll want that mid and mid in elite for post patterns there. 10 to 20 yards line of scrimmage. I just worry about like 21-yard passes because a lot of post patterns do kind of get around that 20-yard range. So we'll see. And but I think those will be pretty important again. So a side grade on those abilities. So defensive coverage, and we've talked about this in the last video, so I'm not going to go too much. I want to go about I want to go back to the user rush, pass rush, user rush. They talk about a little bit down here, a little bit more of their abilities, and we'll follow up. But I want to talk about pass rush, okay? Like, in the user pass rush. What could they have done instead of this? And it is frustrating to see they spend so much time on the pass rush because who was asking for this? Which users are D-line rushing now, right? I maybe ran into like 3 all year. Hundreds, if not thousands of games, including house rules, and the pass rush. I think maybe ran 3 against players, right? And they're basically saying, hey, we should make it so more people are pass rushing, getting instant pressure on their user D-line moves. And okay, I guess. But like, all right, here are just some things I thought of. Took me, 20 minutes to come up with these things. So what would have been cool? I'm just going to rattle them off as I thought of them. Running back, run lanes, and finding the hole, right? They could have done something better with how you get through there. And they've done a little bit in the past. Wide receiver versus DB moves, right? This was touched a little bit with their lock-on mechanic, but basically, like, when a wide receiver releases, how in fighting games you have certain combos? Now in Madden, it's just like you press a button, they press a button, you hope you guess right? Why is it like a guessing game? Why is it rock, paper, scissors when we can make them actually input like fucking Hadoukens or some shit for like that new yard. So like maybe they could added a more of a fighting game feel to the wide receiver and DB mechanics instead of this, press a button on the pass rush. Literally just pressing a button, having ability activated. How dumb shit is that, right? That's super stupid. So like they could have added more depth to this stuff, to add more mechanics in it, to add like better combos, and then on the screen it can show whether you're frame perfect or not, or how close to perfect you got by basically showing like, hey, you hit the button there, you hit the button there, you hit the button there, you mess this button, and then hit the button. And so like there are certain things you could do with the hand fighting and whatnot, and instead of just adding this. So that's just an addition to this. QB, they could add signature throw motion. This is just gameplay, right? These are just gameplay things on the field that I come out with in 20 minutes. Signature throw motions, right? We have like 3 signature throw motions right now. Rodgers, Brady, another couple. But like, it's just frustrating when, you have NBA 2K with millions of different great signature shots, dribbles, that kind of stuff. And Madden sitting here with like, I don't know, a dozen. Maybe RB run motions. They've touched that a little bit, but they could go like everybody. They can imitate everybody. Crazy Leg Hirsch in there. So they could allow some players with signature moves to be more OP than a certain player with that signature move, instead of just basically being on stat thresholds. So that way there's a reason to get one player over another because he does this one certain thing amazingly. Double teams could have been improved. They did take a look a little bit at that. I saw route combos against certain zones. They can kind of like show, hey, against this certain zone, this route combo will work. And like you could say, you could show on the field. I don't know if I love that actually, but like they can make it better, right? Corner, like clear out and flood concepts, different stuff. Like more important to that, like trick plays. Why aren't the trick plays? Like if they wanted to add something to this game, the thing that they should have done was to their playbooks more than these blitz moves, right? They should have put a ton of hours into bringing in like Statue of Liberty, the annexation of Puerto Rico. They could have brought in like legitimate hook and ladders too. Like, so why are they spending a time on like this mode when there's so many different things in like football that they could have done to add a little bit, maybe more to the skill gap? Match coverage needs to be overhauled, right? A lot of the shit and the problems we see right now in game are solved IRL by match coverage because of the route concepts, kind of get shut down once you actually match to them. So like match coverage, why hasn't that been overhauled? Why is cover 3 match, cover 2 sync, that kind of stuff still fucking broken? That's something I just said. They could add, if you want to do something fun and less casual, they could add bullet time like Max Payne for offline play, right? Like this shit is just for like beginners, but why not add a cool ass like bullet time where we can slow it down? And like we saw in Superstar, or not Superstar, we saw it in Long Shot where he slowed it down to his receiver in the final play that won him the game. So like there's a lot of shit that he could have done. Using mechanics to stop the run, right? Here would have been a great one, right? Say it's a dive and you're running towards the line with your middle linebacker. You can press a button to hit the guard's shoulder, right or left, to try and bounce the running back one way or the other. So there's a lot of like little things they could have done, but I don't know. Not necessarily better than this, but just like the thoughts off my head. That's gonna be like 20 minutes to come up with those ideas, and it's not that hard. But this one, I don't love it. I don't exactly love pressing one button and then like you get past them because you have El Toro on. Moving on. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think the trick plays one's the one I'm be more excited for out of all that stuff. Oh, sorry, this is what I missed. If you wanted to make the game easier, you could just put a threat zone around opposing users on D to show as range to passers, right? Like if you want to make it so, to dumb down your game, say, hey, the user can get to this spot, and you can extend that to all the AI if you really want to make it easy. Don't throw to a player that's within this circle of influence for the user, because he could cut back and get that one at this point. So it is interesting to see a lot of their balance changes, and I think the most excited for are the dashing Deadeye and no-look Deadeye now have a range limit, which really is fine, right? Because they saw those unnatural looking behaviors of like on-the-run throws 80 yards with certain skills, or at least like 70 yards to dominate players. But there were powerful outliers. Fast break was one of them. I don't love that the defense, they slowed down defense on fast break, and they still doing it in 21. I think that's a really bad idea. I've talked about it in the previous videos. Escape artist got nerfed. Definitely in the updated beta, you saw the difference in escape artist between the two quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson was significantly faster than Patrick Mahomes with escape artist, so it got a huge nerf bat. Even though they say it will prevent undesirable situation where QB continues to stop and start, it definitely took a speed hit too. weaker. They buffed Pro Read's X Factor. They buffed Gambler. They buffed Blitz Radar. The buffs weren't that powerful, though, in my opinion. They're still X Factors, and I still don't love X Factors as opposed to abilities. They removed the Guru for the running back abilities to make like outside zones, inside zones more powerful. Cool, I guess. They had new X Factors abilities, and these were all ones that we've talked about in that previous video, so watch that one. We're not going to rehash that shit. New NFL Superstar abilities, Adrenaline Rush. They'll have the pass rush points restored after sacking the quarterback. Like I said, this is just user D-line moves. I don't know. Dumb. This is a waste. I think they're gonna find out how many. If I were a betting man, I would say user D-line will get a few more people trying it out at the beginning of the year, but I don't think it's going to be the meta. I think this was a large waste of time, which is why I proposed alternatives and better ideas. This feels like user D-line pass rush feels a lot like precision passing to me, where I don't think people are going to use it. They're going to experience with it. You're going to see a lot of like YouTube videos hyping it up to get views, but in the end, I don't think you'll see any top end player use user D-line moves unless there's some sort of like catch your opponent off guard with them, because it just doesn't feel like it would be to a place that if it's successful, it would be broken, right? So, like, if it got there, they'd need to end up nerfing it. So, I don't think it's going to get there. Because El Toro in the beta, being able to get an instant sack, that's just bad. That's the reason they got rid of nanos. So, in the end, if it does get bad, which it looked like a little bit, and other ones like this, it will get a nerf bat. So, maybe earlier on in the year, before pre-nerf, we'll see it a bit. But, in the end, whatever. But yeah, all those other things, these are all things that I think we talked about in our ability video. So the next Gridiron Notes will come out Tuesday, August 18th. So we're going to get, 2 to 3 weeks of silence. And then, 2.5 weeks or so of silence. And then the 18th are coming out, and the game launches the 20th. So we're going to learn about Mutt pretty late in the cycle. And we'll end up seeing what's going on. But that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys thought. I did not love that they spent so much development time on user D-line mechanics because nobody was asking for it. So with nobody asking for it, nobody wanting it, but they still spent it anytime. That's why I was like, they could have done that. You could have done much better things. Work on your match zones. Make it more like the NFL with that shit. Add more animations for quarterbacks, running backs, the way players run, that kind of shit. Anyways, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.